I used to believe that the worst kind of pain was hunger. I thought the cold nights on the streets when my daughters and I huddled together beneath torn blankets were the peak of suffering. But I was wrong. The cruelest pain is the one carried silently inside the weight of betrayal, the sting of being abandoned by the one person you thought would fight for you. I am Olivia, 28 years old, though most days I feel twice that. Life carved deep lines into my face long before it should have. My hands are rough, my clothes torn, my pride shattered into pieces I can never gather back. And yet, sitting on that sidewalk with my twins beside me, I still whispered to them that tomorrow would be better. Mothers are expected to keep hope alive even when there's nothing left to hold on to. That day, I remember the world around me rushing by, everyone too busy to notice us. Cars roared, shoes clicked against pavement, laughter and chatter filled the air, while my daughters pressed their tiny hands into my lap, asking if we'd eat tonight. Hazel, my quieter one, tried to hide her tears, while Harper whimpered from hunger. My heart broke again and again in those small moments, but I forced myself to smile at them. "It's okay, my loves," I whispered, stroking their tangled hair. "Someone will help us soon." I didn't believe my own words. And then someone stopped. A man's shadow stretched across the concrete. I looked up, and for a moment I thought I was hallucinating. Because standing there dressed in wealth from head to toe was Logan Bennett, the boy I had once known, the boy I had once mocked for being awkward and invisible, now transformed into a man the world seemed to bow to. His face was sharper, his presence commanding, his eyes burning with something I couldn't name. "Olivia." His voice cut through the noise of the street, low, hesitant. My breath caught in my throat. Of all the people in this city, of all the lives colliding on that busy corner, why him? Why now? For a second, I wanted to disappear into the cracks of the pavement. I wanted to curl around my daughters and pretend I was a stranger. But I couldn't. He had already seen me, seen my shame, my fall, my daughters clinging to survival. "Logan," I whispered, my voice so small it barely reached him. The silence between us was suffocating, thick with memories I wished had stayed buried. Once in high school, I was the girl who laughed when he stammered, the girl who chose the popular boy Jake, because I craved attention, not sincerity. And Logan, he had been the quiet dreamer, the one who looked at me like I was more than I believed I was. And I crushed him for it. And now here we were, our lives reversed in the cruelest irony. "What happened to you?" His question came out like a knife, not from cruelty, but from disbelief. My lips trembled. What could I tell him? That the golden boy I gave my heart to left me the moment he knew about the pregnancy. That Jake abandoned me without looking back, leaving me to carry two lives inside me alone. That the family who should have stood by me turned their backs because I had stained their reputation with scandal. "It doesn't matter," I muttered, clutching my daughters closer. "We're fine, please, just go." But my daughters betrayed my lie. Hazel's stomach growled, Harper whimpered, and Logan's eyes softened with something I hadn't expected: pain. "You're not fine," he said firmly. "Come with me, I'll help you." "I can't." My pride screamed at me. Accepting his hand would mean admitting my defeat. It would mean showing him that karma had come for me, that every cruel word I once threw at him had come back to strip me bare. But Logan didn't wait for my permission. His gaze locked onto mine, steady and unyielding. "I'm not leaving you and your daughters here in the cold. You're coming with me. I won't take no for an answer." For the first time in years, someone's voice left me powerless. The next minutes blurred together. His driver arrived, his hand reached for mine. I found myself stepping into a car that smelled of leather and wealth, clutching Harper, while he carried Hazel as if she weighed nothing. My daughters, exhausted and hungry, melted into his arms without fear. And as the city lights blurred past the car window, I stared at my reflection, hollow, broken, unrecognizable. The car stopped in front of a mansion. His mansion. Warm lights glowed behind tall windows, the kind of home I had once dreamed of but never belonged to. My heart twisted. "You don't have to do this, Logan," I whispered. He glanced at me, his expression unreadable. "I already am." Inside, the housekeeper prepared a room. Food was served. My daughters ate with trembling hands, their faces lighting up for the first time in weeks. I should have been relieved. Instead, my chest ached with something darker. Because as much as I wanted to believe this was salvation, I knew better. Nothing in life came without a cost. And deep down, I feared that the past, the secrets I had buried, the choices I had made, the betrayals I had endured, were all about to resurface. I couldn't sleep that night, even though for the first time in years, my daughters were warm, full, and safe. I sat on the edge of the guest bed, staring at their small bodies curled beneath the soft blankets, their breaths steady and peaceful. My heart should have been calm, but instead it raced with dread, because safety has always been temporary for me. Safety has always been followed by loss. And then there was Logan. Across the hall in a room I could not see, I knew he was awake too. I could feel it like a weight pressing against the silence. Logan Bennett, the boy I once laughed at now, a man with the kind of power and wealth I couldn't even imagine. He had saved me tonight, but for what reason pity? Some long-buried desire for revenge, or something else entirely? By morning I forced myself to push away those questions. My daughters came first. Their faces lit up when they saw the breakfast table fruits and pastries they had only seen in pictures. For a moment their giggles filled the air like music. I let myself smile just a little, because even if it was fleeting, happiness looked good on them. Logan watched us quietly, his expression unreadable. When the girls were led to play in another room, he finally turned to me. "Olivia, we need to talk." My stomach nodded. He leaned forward across the table, his eyes sharp but not cruel. "What happened to you?" I wanted to stay silent. I wanted to hold on to the last fragments of dignity I had left. But his gaze pierced through me and the words spilled out before I could stop them. "After high school, I thought I had everything figured out. I was dating Jake Miller, you remember him?" Logan's jaw tightened at the name. Of course he remembered Jake. Everyone did. Jake had been the kind of boy people worshipped, handsome, popular, untouchable. And I, foolish and naive, believed he loved me. "I got pregnant," I whispered, my throat tight. And when I told him, he walked away. He said he wasn't ready to be a father. He disappeared, just like that. Logan's fists clenched on the table, his knuckles pale. I lowered my gaze, ashamed. I thought I could manage on my own. I took whatever jobs I could. But when the twins were 2, I lost everything, the job, the apartment. We've been on the streets since then, surviving day by day. I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't. I was too ashamed. The silence that followed was heavy. Logan's eyes softened, but beneath the compassion, I saw something else, anger. Not at me, at Jake. "You don't deserve this," he said quietly but firmly. "And your daughters deserve better. You're not alone anymore, Olivia. I'll help you." I shook my head. "Why, Logan? After everything I did to you in the past? Why?" His voice lowered, raw and steady. "Because despite it all, I care about you. I always have." My chest tightened. His words should have brought comfort, but instead they cut deeper. Because if he truly cared, then one day he could also hurt me. And I didn't think I had the strength to survive being broken again. That night, as I tucked my daughters into bed, Logan's confession echoed in my mind. I sat in the dark, hugging my knees, the firelight flickering against the walls. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of hope. But hope was dangerous. Hope was a double-edged blade. Days passed in a blur of cautious kindness. Logan insisted I rest while his housekeeper took care of Harper and Hazel. He bought them clothes, shoes, even toys they had never dared to ask for. Their laughter filled the mansion's halls, and I felt my walls begin to crack. Still, guilt weighed heavy on me. I remembered every cruel word I had thrown at him when we were younger, every time I chose Jake over him. Karma had a way of circling back, and I wondered if this was it, me kneeling at the mercy of the man I once scorned. Then one afternoon, Logan came into the study where I had been trying to help fold laundry. His expression was serious, almost troubled. "There's something you need to know," he said, closing the door behind him. My heart stopped. I found Jake. The name dropped between us like a thunderclap. My knees nearly buckled, but I forced myself to stay upright. "What do you mean you found him?" "I wanted answers," Logan said. His voice was firm, but his eyes betrayed hesitation. I confronted him. "I needed to understand why he abandoned you. Why he left his daughters to starve while he lived without guilt." My breath caught. Rage surged in me, tangled with terror. "You had no right." "Maybe not," Logan admitted, "but I did it for you. And for them." My chest heaved as my mind spun. The last thing I ever wanted was for Jake to reappear in my life. He was a ghost. I had buried a wound I had tried to stitch closed. And now Logan had torn it open again. What did he say? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Logan's jaw tightened. He admitted everything. He knew you were pregnant. He knew the twins existed. He just didn't care. He said it was easier to disappear than to take responsibility. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. Even after all these years, some foolish part of me had hoped Jake might regret what he did, that maybe he would have wondered about his daughters. But hearing that he hadn't even asked about them, it crushed something inside me all over again. That night, long after Logan had gone to bed, I sat alone at the kitchen table, a cold cup of tea untouched in front of me. My reflection in the glass window stared back hollow and trembling. I realized then that if I ever wanted to move forward, I couldn't keep hiding from the past. I had to confront Jake myself. For me, for Harper, for Hazel. The decision haunted me for days, yet I knew there was no escaping it. I had to face Jake, not because I wanted him back in our lives, God no, but because I needed closure. I needed to stand in front of him and prove, if only to myself, that he no longer had the power to break me. So one cold morning, with my daughters playing under the watch of Logan's housekeeper, I picked up the phone and dialed a number I had never thought I'd use again. My hands shook as I held it to my ear. When his voice came through, casual and indifferent, it was like being stabbed in the chest. "Jake, it's me, Olivia." A pause, then a sharp exhale of disbelief. "Olivia. After all these years, we need to talk," I said, steadying my voice with all the strength I could muster. "It's about the girls." There was silence, then a dismissive scoff. "Olivia, I told you a long time ago I don't want anything to do with that. With them. With you." My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. "You left me when I was 18. You left 2 babies, who were half of you. You walked away without a second glance, and you've never once wondered if they were alive." His reply was ice. "You wanted them, not me. I never signed up for fatherhood." Something inside me snapped. I felt the years of hunger, of humiliation, of my daughter's tears, all the weight I had carried, ignite into rage. "You didn't sign up." My voice trembled. "They were your blood, your daughters, and you threw them away like trash." He said nothing, and then almost cruelly he hung up. I stood there, frozen, the silence on the line louder than any scream. But strangely, the tears that burned in my eyes weren't only from pain, they were from relief. The last flicker of hope that he might change was gone, extinguished. There was nothing left of him to wait for, nothing left to cling to. He was dead to me. That evening, Logan found me sitting in the living room with Harper and Hazel, curled up against me, their little faces peaceful in sleep. My hands rested on their hair, as if guarding them from the world. When he sat beside me, I whispered. I talked to him. His eyes darkened, and, as expected, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to know them. He feels nothing. Logan's fists clenched, but his voice was steady. Then he's a fool. He doesn't know what he's lost. I nodded, my gaze fixed on my daughters. I didn't do it for him. I did it for them. I needed to be sure there was nothing left to expect, and now I know. For the first time in years, I felt light. The chains of waiting, of hoping, had been cut. There would be no rescue from the man who abandoned us. But maybe, just maybe, there could be something new. Days turned into weeks. I buried myself in rebuilding. Logan had encouraged me to study, to take courses, and though it terrified me at first, I found myself slowly learning again. Numbers, words, ideas, all the things I thought life had beaten out of me, I held them in my hands like fragile treasures. And Logan was always there. He never hovered, never pushed, but somehow his presence anchored me. He watched Harper and Hazel play in the garden, kneeling in the grass with them, as if he'd been their father all along. I would find myself watching him from the window, my chest tightening with emotions I didn't dare name. But healing isn't a straight line. One afternoon, as I organized notes in the study, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. My heart dropped when I opened it. A photograph of Logan sitting across from an elegant woman at a restaurant. The caption, "Do you really know who he is?" My chest constricted. I stared at the photo until my hands went numb. Doubt rushed in like a flood, washing away all the fragile trust I had built. I knew Logan was powerful. I knew women must orbit around him like moths to a flame. But why did this picture feel like a warning? Why now, when I had finally begun to breathe again? That evening when Logan returned, he found me quiet, withdrawn. He sat beside me, his brow furrowed. "What's wrong?" I hesitated, then shoved the phone into his hands. "This. Someone sent me this today." He looked at it, his jaw tightening. "That was a business meeting. She's a consultant I'm hiring." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But the scars of betrayal ran deep and my voice cracked. Why would someone send this to me? Why would they try to warn me? His gaze locked onto mine, firm, unwavering. "Because someone wants to hurt me, and they know the only way to do that is through you." My breath hitched. He reached for my hands, his touch steady. "Olivia, I need you to trust me. I would never do anything to hurt you or them." His eyes burned with sincerity, and for a moment, the walls inside me wavered. But the fear still lingered. Because trust once broken doesn't rebuild overnight. That night, long after the girls were asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, torn between my heart and my fears. Logan had given us safety, hope, a second chance at life. But what if I was walking straight into another betrayal, one I might not survive this time? The days after that message felt heavier, as if the house itself carried my doubts in its walls. Logan tried to reassure me, but no matter how sincere his words were, the shadow of my past whispered louder. Betrayal had been my constant companion. It had trained me to expect abandonment even in kindness, to brace myself for cruelty hidden beneath affection. And yet Logan was relentless in his quiet devotion. He brought me tea in the evenings, asked about my studies, encouraged Harper and Hazel with patience I had never seen in any man. Slowly, almost against my will, I began to see what my daughters saw: a man who loved without condition. Still, I couldn't silence the voice inside me that said, "One day he will leave. One day you'll wake up and he'll be gone too." Then one afternoon, Logan came to me with a folder in his hands. He placed it gently on the table, his eyes steady. "I've been thinking about your future, Olivia. Not just surviving, but thriving. These are contracts. I'd like you to work with me. Nothing too heavy, an assistant role, flexible hours. It would give you a start, something to build on while you finish your studies." I froze, staring at the pages. It was generous, too generous. My chest ached with panic. "Logan, I don't know if I can do this. I don't have the skills. I don't belong in your world." He shook his head firmly. "You've survived the unimaginable, Olivia. That takes more strength than any degree. You're capable of more than you believe." His voice was so steady, so certain, it made something inside me tremble. For years, I had lived under the weight of Jake's abandonment, my family's rejection, society's scorn. And here was Logan holding out a lifeline, daring me to believe I could be more than my scars. That night, after tucking the twins into bed, I sat alone with the contract in my lap. My reflection in the glass window stared back at me, a woman torn between fear and possibility. My daughter's soft breathing filled the silence, and I realized they deserved to see their mother rise. They deserved to see me fight not just for survival, but for dignity. The next morning I signed it. Working alongside Logan was terrifying at first. The office was filled with polished people in tailored suits, their eyes curious and sometimes judgmental when they looked at me. I felt small, out of place, a ghost wearing borrowed confidence. But Logan never let me sink. He introduced me with quiet pride, listened to my ideas, and gave me tasks that slowly rebuilt my faith in myself. And every evening when Harper and Hazel ran into my arms after a day of play, and learning their laughter reminded me why I couldn't quit. For the first time in years, I began to believe in a future. But healing always comes with storms. One late afternoon, as I packed away files, Logan walked in with a grave expression. "Olivia, we need to talk." My stomach tightened. His tone carried weight, the kind that precedes a revelation. "I've been looking into that message you received," he said carefully. "It wasn't random. It came from someone connected to Jake." My blood ran cold. Why he doesn't care about me? He never cared about the girls. Logan's jaw tightened. "He doesn't care, but he resents. He knows I confronted him. He knows I've stepped into the role he abandoned. And now he's trying to poison what you and I are building. I shook my head, anger burning hot in my chest. Of course, that's who he is. Cowardice wrapped in cruelty. He couldn't raise his daughters, but he'll try to ruin them from the shadows. Logan reached across the desk, his hand warm against mine. You need to know, Olivia, that whatever he does, whatever lies he tries to plant, I will not walk away. Not from you, not from Harper, not from Hazel. His words pierced through my doubts like sunlight breaking clouds, but part of me still trembled. What if I can't trust again, Logan? What if the past has damaged me too much? His gaze didn't waver. Then I'll wait, as long as it takes. I don't need perfection, Olivia. I just need you. Tears spilled down my cheeks, not of grief this time, but of something gentler, something that felt dangerously like hope. That night, after the twins were asleep, I walked out into the garden. The moonlight bathed the flowers in silver, the air cool against my skin. For years I had felt trapped beneath shadows. Jake's betrayal, my family's rejection, society's disdain. But now, standing beneath the vast sky, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe, just maybe, the past didn't have to define me forever. Maybe love, real love, steady and patient, could rewrite what betrayal had carved into me. I wasn't ready to say it aloud, but in my heart I knew I was beginning to fall for Logan. And yet, a darker whisper lingered in the corners of my mind. If karma had already caught me once, what if it wasn't finished with me yet? What if the price of hope was another heartbreak, one I might not survive? The storm came quietly, the way most storms do, without warning, without mercy. I had begun to let myself believe in peace. Logan's presence had become a constant comfort. Harper and Hazel laughed more than they cried, and their small world began to feel like a home. I was working, studying, breathing again. For the first time since I was 18, I thought the ground beneath me might finally be solid. But shadows don't vanish just because we pretend they aren't there. One morning as I walked into the office, Logan had given me a letter was waiting on my desk. No name, no return address, just my own trembling hands tearing it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper with words scrawled in angry black ink. You can't erase blood, he'll never be their father, and you'll never escape what you did. My vision blurred, my chest constricted, the handwriting I recognized it. Jake. The air around me turned heavy, suffocating. I wanted to rip the letter apart, burn it, pretend it didn't exist. But the weight of those words lodged deep in my chest. He was right about one thing: Logan wasn't their father. And as much as I wanted to bury the past, blood has a way of haunting you. That evening, Logan noticed my silence. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away, ashamed of the fear still gnawing at me. What if he's right, Logan? What if I can never outrun what I did, mocking you, choosing Jake, ignoring every warning until it destroyed me? Logan's eyes hardened, but his voice was soft. You made mistakes, Olivia. So did I. But those mistakes don't define who you are now. They don't define Harper, they don't define Hazel, and they don't define what we're building together. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But shame is a cruel poison. It seeps into every corner of you until you can't tell where it ends and you begin. The breaking point came a week later. Jake showed up. It was evening, the twins playing in the garden, their laughter echoing through the air. Logan had gone to answer a call inside, and I was left alone under the fading sunset when I heard footsteps on the gravel path. I turned, and there he was. Older, thinner eyes, bloodshot from years of running from responsibility, but still wearing that same crooked smile that once made me foolish enough to believe him. "Olivia," he said, his voice dripping with familiarity that made my skin crawl. "You've done well for yourself. Living in a mansion now with a millionaire who doesn't know who you really are." "Leave," I whispered, my hands trembling. "You have no right to be here." He smirked. "No right, I'm their father." The words sliced through me like glass. "You are nothing to them," I spat. "You gave up that right the moment you walked away." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You think you can replace me with him? Logan might have money, but he'll never erase me. Blood doesn't disappear, Olivia. And I could take them from you with one word in court." Rage surged in me, hotter than anything I'd ever felt. "You a father. You don't even deserve to say their names." Before he could reply, Logan appeared, His face darkened at the sight of Jake, and for a moment the air crackled with unspoken fury. "Leave. Now." Jake sneered, but his eyes flickered with unease. Logan's presence was unshakable, immovable. Still, before turning away, Jake leaned close enough for only me to hear. "You'll regret this. You'll regret trusting him." And then he was gone. I collapsed into Logan's arms, my body trembling as the sobs finally broke free. For years I had carried the weight of Jake's betrayal alone, burying the shame, the guilt, the fear. But that night, something inside me shifted. For the first time, I realized that his power over me only existed because I let it. I was done letting him win. In the days that followed, I wrote down everything: my goals, my fears, my dreams. Logan had given me a notebook insisting I use it to shape my future. And slowly I did. I filled the pages with plans for my daughters, for myself, for a life not built on survival, but on strength. Jake never came back. Perhaps he realized he no longer had control, or perhaps karma found him in ways I'll never know. But for me, the silence he left behind was not emptiness, it was freedom. One evening, sitting in the garden under the stars, Logan turned to me. His voice was quiet, steady, almost fragile. "Olivia, I've loved you for longer than you'll ever know. And I love them too. I want to spend my life with you, with Harper, with Hazel. Will you let me?" My heart stilled. The girl I once was, the girl who mocked him, who chose wrong, who paid with years of suffering, she would have laughed. But the woman I had become, forged in hunger, in betrayal, in relentless love for her children, knew the truth. Tears filled my eyes as I whispered yes. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was falling. I felt like I was standing. And maybe that was the lesson life had been trying to teach me all along. That even after betrayal, even after abandonment, even after every cruel twist of fate, love could still find you. Not the reckless kind that burns fast and leaves ashes, but the steady kind that rebuilds you piece by piece. I don't pretend my wounds are gone. They'll always be part of me, but they no longer define me. What defines me now is the laughter of my daughters echoing through the halls of a home that feels safe, the warmth of a man who chose to stay when others ran, and the strength I found in myself when I thought I had none left. So, if you're listening to my story, let it be a reminder. Betrayal doesn't have the final word. Karma may wound, but it also restores. And sometimes the life you never thought you deserved becomes the one you were meant to have all along. If my story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear if you've ever faced betrayal and found strength to rise again. Your voice matters, and together we can remind the world that no wound is too deep to heal.